I'd rather just have Shrek join the Avengers, and then he can just play Shrek.
I would be okay with that. Like just a big green ogre with his superpowers. He's
I
just
mean, they
really
already that's.
stinky.
And you watch him fight the Hulk. Now that is what I would want to
And he
see.
has like onion bombs on his belt and stuff, and like he just farts a whole bunch. Has like his giant ogre roar. That would be good.
At the
It's like
end, like the enemy's like in like a trash dump, and it's too stinky for everyone to go in, and Shrek has to go and save the day.
yeah, he swims through the sewers of the
Yeah.
city and all the shit because he likes the smell.
All right, from the top.
Uh, Playhouse Reviews. Warning, this video contains in-depth movie reviews and film discussions, which include movie spoilers of key plot points and may ruin the viewing pleasure of audiences listening to this podcast who have not yet seen these films. The Playhouse Brothers highly recommend watching these films before listening to this episode to ensure your listening experience enjoyment levels are maximized. If you do not care about having movie endings spoiled, please disregard this message and proceed with listening.
Yo, 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 yo. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Playhouse Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing the Eric Andre's Bad Trip and the new Netflix exclusive Thunder Force. Before we get started, though, James, have you watched anything else that you want to talk about this week?
Yes, I watched Ju-on, The Grudge, the origin. So it's the Netflix TV show. It's a new 2020 kind of reboot. I know there's a lot of
Is it
Grudge
Netflix
movies.
Netflix exclusive?
Yes,
Original?
I believe so. Yeah, but it is a Japanese director. It's not
Okay.
like the one with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
It's not one of their algorithm shows.
No, this one is. It stayed pretty true to the original Grudge movie.
The Japanese one? Or
The Japanese one, yes.
Oh, so it's just a bunch of random shit going on.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect.
But yeah, because I actually rewatched the original Grudge after watching the TV show to kind of compare, and it's the same thing. It's like, oh, each character kind of goes to a house and then or goes to the haunted house, then just terrible stuff happens and they get killed and things like that.
Is
So
each episode like a different person, or are they kind of tied together?
yeah, they're all tied together. It's like the same format as the movie. It's like, oh, like the one girl was like like a social worker, and she goes to the house, and then she like sees it, and it like follows the grandma, then it follows like the police guy, then it goes
Okay,
to like the
okay.
police guy's daughter. At least that's how the movie is. In this TV show, it's a similar story, but not the same. So it's like the little boy and the monsters are like the ghosts are kind of similar, but the story is slightly different. But it's the same format. So it starts out this girl, her soon-to-be husband's looking for a house for him, so he's looking and he finds the haunted house, and then she's haunted by a ghost, and then it's like there's this paranormal investigator who's like tied to the house, and there's like another girl who's tied to the house, and it's like back, but it's like pre-2000s, so it takes place. I think there's something that happens in the 50s, something that happens in the 80s, and then the main story's in
Oh,
the
that's kinda
90s.
cool.
But each episode goes from a different character. And when I first started watching, like the first episode's probably like the slowest. Like it's creepy and atmospheric, like the original one. But then, oh my god, it gets so brutally graphic and violent and just like hard. It was so disturbing. I was even for Netflix. I was like,
Ooh,
damn,
I kind
can't
of want to
believe
watch
this
it
show.
now.
No, you should absolutely watch it. I think I liked it more than the actual movie and stuff. Because the other one focused more on the psychological ghost stuff, which is great. This one has a ton of that too. But this show, it kind of has a different spin on it. So instead of it being about the supernatural curse, it's more about like actual terrible problems and like the treatment of like women and problems in Japan. But it's
Okay.
more so of humans treating each other horribly, which is kind of like insinuated subtly in the original movie. But in this TV show, they don't hold back. They like show everything. It's really,
Alright.
these are horrible people doing bad things. And that's what causes all these horrible hauntings and things to happen.
That's cool.
So it's, yeah.
I might check it out. I kind of swore myself off of Junon movies after watching Junon versus The Ring, which was a huge pile of garbage, and I can't wait for the sequel. But
Yeah. I mean, this one, it's like most Japanese shows and movies, they really didn't know how to end it. There's some weird stuff that happens that I didn't care for, but each of the little stories, like, it's pretty violent. Like, there was some of the stuff that like, was giving me like flashbacks to like Inside, that French Extreme movie with like the girl tries to steal her baby. Like,
yeah.
it was like one of the more violent things I've seen in a long time. So it's pretty crazy. I really enjoyed it. I was hooked. It's very unsettling. But yeah, it was good. And then I did more research into the Grudge movies because, yeah, they are kind of weird. And there's a lot
There's a lot of them now, aren't there?
Yeah, I think there's like 14, including like the American. There's even that more recent one that came out, like a 2021 that was like an American version.
Another reboot. Yeah.
But I was very pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. It was much darker, much more. I don't know, not as like cheesy. It was pretty like serious stuff.
Yeah, you never know with like Japanese shows what you're gonna get. That's half the fun.
Yeah, it was really, one thing. It's not really a spoiler. It's just kind of ridiculous. So like, there's all this crazy stuff happening, haunted house, like over long periods of time, and then like people are disappearing, and like, oh, where'd this person go? And it's kind of like one of the questions they're trying to solve, and then they finally found out what happens, and you're like, oh, and then they just get zapped out of like into like they just spontaneously combust, and then they never explain why that happens. They just get zapped into like a little like brown blood puddle. And it's just like, why did this happen? And they don't address it or try to explain it at all. It's like, okay, it's so out of place.
Since we're doing spoilers right now, do you want to know how they defeated Ring versus the Grudge?
Yeah, tell me.
They trapped the Grudge ghost in the well with the Ring girl.
What the heck?
And they put a big lid on it, and then that's how they defeat it. Or do they? You'll have to watch it to find out.
Watch it to find out. Oh, God. Yeah, I remember I was actually kind of excited for how ridiculous that one was, but you said it was so bad, I didn't even bother checking it out.
So bad, yeah.
Yeah, but this was some pretty solid Japanese horror. Like, each of the creepy things that happened, some of them are a little rushed, but not as rushed as like the first movie was. But they all tie together pretty well, and they're really solid stories that are on their own. And you don't need to necessarily have seen the previous ones to know.
Yeah.
But that format of focusing on each little story per episode, but loosely tying it together, works much better in TV show format than movie. And it's short. It's
I feel like the way the movies are formatted, it would be perfect for a TV show.
Yeah, and it's like each episode. There's only 6 episodes. It's like 30 minutes per episode, so it's like 3 hours. So it's like shorter than the Snyder Cut. Much better in my opinion. So I would say go check it out. It was very, very good. What about you? Did you watch anything this week you want to mention?
No, I was moving this week, so I didn't have much time. If you might notice, the setup's a little bit different in this episode.
I know, it's really nice. I like the new setup. I also like your new webcam. I can see you so crystal clear. I look at my crappy little web screen; it's all staticky.
I know.
Like mine's in 280p. Yours is in like 4K.
Yeah. New webcam, new internet. So my setup. I don't have a desk yet, but it's pretty nice. It
looks very nice. But, I like all the white. It looks very clean.
Since I don't have any other shows or movies to talk about this episode, I want to introduce our new segment, the Playhouse Classics. And maybe next time we'll have a theme song or something, but this is an exciting day. So in our Playhouse Classics segment, we're going to talk about movies that we watched many, many times when we were growing up in the Playhouse. I feel like the requirement for this is like we've had to have watched the movie like at least 20 times minimum for it to qualify to be a classic. So for the first movie, I want to talk about the Sasquatch Gang with starring Justin Long and a bunch of other actors that never went anywhere.
Oh yeah, this movie is great. I mean, I can't even. We would just watch this almost like when we were younger, like every weekend. If we were bored on like a Friday, Saturday night, we just have this like movie playing on repeat in the background. Like we'd be gaming and having friends over, and it's just an amazing, hilarious movie. It's lighthearted. Silly.
I feel like it's one of those movies that like anyone will appreciate. I mean. It doesn't have the best Rotten Tomatoes score, but it's trying to like emulate that Napoleon Dynamite feel. I think this one I like more than Napoleon Dynamite. It's more like coherent. It's just not as outlandish, but the humor is very similar.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's very, very silly. I think this is one of them. I mean, why we call it a Playhouse classic. It really shaped our humor and the types of jokes and things that we like. It's very absurd and kind of dry humor. There's no laugh track like Big Bang Theory. But the characters are very original. They're just very silly situations, and it's good.
And I really like it too because I feel like it really captures like that awkward teenager stage. Like I feel like maybe like people say like it's just like bad acting, but I feel like they actually casted like awkward teenagers and they play awkward teenagers really well. Like the way they kind of deliver their lines kind of feels like how high schoolers would talk.
Yeah, and the main guy, it's what is it? Jeremy Sumpter, Gavin, who was like the Peter Pan boy.
Mm-hmm.
in one of the Peter Pan movies. He's a good actor. I mean, I think they're trying to be awkward, so I think it's that Napoleon Dynamite style is really what it's trying to do.
But man, I still remembered like every line and every joke when I rewatched it. And it's probably been like 10 years since I watched it. So
yeah, I mean the premise is great. Like I think we connected a lot because we were kind of more of like the gamers and kind of the
we weren't as nerdy as these guys, but we were pretty nerdy.
Yeah, but we still like in the movie, like they love movies, they love like live action role playing, and then like the bully's just kind of like typical like white trash dude, so he's really funny, played by Justin Long. But we can kind of relate to just like these nerdy people, and they're very likable, just silly characters, and got Coconut Head in it from
Well, I just
Ned's
feel like
Declassified.
the dialogue is so funny because it's like Napoleon Dynamite, but I feel like more like quick-witted, you know? Like there's not as many like one-liners, but like the conversations they have are so funny, and like the back and forth is so good.
Oh yeah, the scene that comes to mind that I think really just like sums up kind of like the type of humor in this movie. It's like they're in the front yard LARPing with playing with their foam swords and stuff that they made, and they're battling, having fun, and then like their redneck mean neighbor Justin Long comes over and starts like bullying them and challenges them to a fight and stuff, and then he basically just grabs it and doesn't even like play by the rules and is just being mean and beats him up. But then when they get like kind of like demeaned by him being stupid, he's like, you can't make this out of foam and duct tape, and then just flexes his muscle and arm. He's just like so full of himself and not aware of how much he just sucks, and he's like a 20-something-year-old just bully these like 15 or 16-year-old kids, and it's just so stupid.
Well, I just love it too. Having shirts, and then like he gives him the high five, and he's holding his corn dog. He's like, "Why are you holding a corn dog when I go to give you a high five?" Now I look like a total cue hole. Like...
Yeah, he high fives him and knocks the corn dog out of his hand. It's just, and then even that, like, there's like some of those kind of long, silly scenes, like not necessarily dialogue heavy, but it's like when Shirts, who's a character who just doesn't wear a shirt the whole TV show. He just wears jean shorts with no t-shirt, but he's just microwaving a hot dog or a corn dog, and then his dog's looking at him, so he just feeds the dog a bite of the corn dog and then starts eating it afterwards after the dog gets its slobber all over it.
And then you meet his family, and none of them wear shirts either.
Oh yeah, no, they have that dinner scene. They're all sitting eating like hot dogs and Cheetos at dinner. And none of the family's wearing a t-shirt at the dinner table. It's very, very.
And then another throwback too. So some of our younger viewers might not know this, but back in the day, Netflix used to mail DVDs out to people. It's a pretty crazy concept, yeah. But when we got this movie, when we first watched it, we got it from Netflix, and we liked it so much, we just told them the DVD was lost in the mail, and we kept it.
Oh yeah, that was one of the first ones we kept. That was. Yeah. I remember that because in Netflix when they mailed them, there was something like, every year you could like lose 5 DVDs before they charged you or something. So we just would report it lost. They're like, every year we could get 5 movies for free.
Well, I also remember too, we had the Freaks and Geeks like box set, but one of the discs got scratched, so we just got it from Netflix and then sent back the scratched one and kept the nice one. That's probably why they don't send DVDs anymore.
Oh yeah, it's too much of a hassle. I mean, you can't like with streaming stuff, you can't like steal a screening thing permanently. I mean, put it on DVD. It's too much work. Can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was good. I mean, Sasquatch Gang. It's a great movie. The premise is basically a group of these kind of like nerdy friends go looking for. They find Sasquatch poop in the forest. So. Becomes a big town ordeal that there's a potential Sasquatch sighting in their neighborhood, and all the events and things that follow.
Yeah, so if you like Napoleon Dynamite, you definitely like this. Even Napoleon Dynamite has a cameo in it. He's in it for a second, and then Uncle Rico, I forget the actor's name right now. He's one of the main characters. So
yeah, he's the main cop in that one. Napoleon Dynamite, his character, he's just a small part, but
he's like working at the carnival they go to just for one scene. But
when I first saw this, I thought it was the same director of Napoleon Dynamite, but
well, it is very, very similar. I feel like after Napoleon Dynamite, a lot of movies try to capitalize on that style, and this is probably one of the better ones.
I think this is the best one of that style. I mean, Napoleon Dynamite I like, but that one's just kind of like weird, like kind of. I feel like when it came out, it was just trying to be absurd of just like the concept and like not necessarily joke on joke on joke. There's some of it, But this one's just a lot more like you said, witty dialogue and humor, and focuses more on the comedy. So
Yeah, the stuff they say is so funny. Like he goes on a date, and then the date's like over, and it's like nighttime, and he's like, "I gotta go. I told my mom that I'm at the pet store looking at kittens."
yeah, then he like runs too. Like it doesn't do a Naruto run, but it's like a very similar kind of arm. There's just so many weird things. Like they're just so awkward and strange. It's like they actually feel like this is what like dating was like for them in high school for these like weird awkward kids. Yeah, it was very good.
Oh, and then I just have to mention my favorite part is when he calls the girl to ask her on a date, and he's like, "Hello, is Sophia there?" And she's like, "You mean Sophie?" And he's like, "No." And then he hangs up and then calls back immediately after and says the right name.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Anyone who wants a good teen comedy with some good absurd, witty humor and very, very silly characters, I think you would like this movie.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's like a family-friendly movie.
Yes, very family-friendly. Watch it with your parents. Watch it with your little brother. It could be PG-13, so maybe not that little. But even if you're younger, hey, you could find something to like in this one.
Yeah, so go out and watch this movie. Needs some love.
Yeah, it does. I don't think it's highly rated enough on here. It doesn't get enough attention. Napoleon Dynamite, everyone knows, but not this one. This one's much, much better. So check it out. If you like Napoleon Dynamite, boom, Sasquatch Gang is for you. Yeah.
You want to do it?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll wait till you're done drinking. So, if you like this review of Sasquatch Gang and this video, you should check out our channel. We do full-length movie reviews. 2 movies every week. Check it out. We get into the nitty-gritty details of what worked and what didn't work. So give this video a like, subscribe if you feel so inclined, and check out our longer video reviews. Well, we just watched Godzilla vs. Kong. See what we liked about it and see if it's good or not. All right. So now we're going to be talking about Bad Trip, starring Eric Andre, his newest prank movie. It's very, very silly and very, very fun. So, Charlie, what did you think about Eric Andre's Bad Trip?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I was kind of worried when I saw it didn't have Hannibal Buress in it, but the fake Hannibal Buress does a great job too, and I thought this movie was hilarious. What about you?
Yeah, no, it was super, super funny. I don't think I've laughed out loud from a movie in a very, very long time like this. It's just constant joke, constant laughs. It's kind of similar to like Borat, where every scene is kind of a prank. But this movie feels a little bit more genuine than the latest like Borat 2 felt.
Well, I felt like this movie is very wholesome. Like I watched it like in the middle of like the pandemic, and it was just kind of nice. Where like whenever Eric was put in like these ridiculous situations, like people like really tried to help him, and I was like, oh, it makes me feel good.
yeah. I feel like that's kind of the difference between like this movie and Borat. It's like all his pranks in this movie bring out the good in people. So like it's kind of usually it's Eric just doing something horrible to himself or something super stupid, like faking getting injured or something crazy.
Yeah.
But then usually people come to help or they try to do good things. He goes more into kind of like the moral route. Whereas in Borat, it's more trying to like find the worst in people and bring out and exploit kind of these like undersides, like bad sides of people. There's not really any of that in Bad Trip. It's more wholesome.
Yeah. Well, I just remember the part where like they get in the car accident and then like Eric Andre's trying to fight with Bud, and then just like the strangers like trying really hard to like get them to talk it out and not be confrontational, and like he's like, "Come on, man, that's your friend. Like you don't want to fight him," and it's just like so nice.
Yeah, it was really good. And so for those who haven't seen the movie yet, we highly recommend go watching it before you watch this video. But the basic premise, Eric meets a high school sweetheart who he hadn't seen in a long time. He's older, working kind of a bunch of dead-end jobs. He gets invited to her art show in New York. And so him and his buddy steal his sister's car, who's in prison, and go on a road trip to New York to go see the love of Eric's life at her art show. So if I think they're in Florida, so they drive from Florida to New York. From Florida. And all the silly things that happen. But the plot is whatever, very typical buddy road trip movie. But every scene in it, they like film it in like a prank setup, or they're just doing like outlandish typical movie stuff with live people who don't know that they're filming a movie with like hidden cameras and stuff.
And that's what I really liked about this movie, is that I felt like the plot went alongside with the pranks. It wasn't like prank and then just like random story stuff, and then the next prank, like the story was incorporated with the pranks, which I thought was really funny because like he's trying to act like it's a Hollywood movie, but it's just like normal people there. And I imagine like there's no music and stuff too, which makes it like even more funny.
Yeah, one of the parts I really really liked, it's like he sees the girl he hasn't seen in like 10 years, like his high school crush, like walks into her restaurant, and then after he sees her, he's like sitting on a park bench, and then there's like some random dude sitting on the bench, some old guy, and he's like, "Oh man, I just saw the girl of my dreams. She walked into the restaurant. I think I'm in love with her. Oh, I want to go." And then the guy's like, "Well, you should go do it." He's like, "Really? Should I do it? I should just quit this job and get it." And the guy's like, "Oh, okay." Then like, he like jumps on the bench and like starts singing and like kicking stuff over and going crazy. Everyone's like, he's in love, whatever." And then like all the people are just staring at him because he's just like singing and dancing, announcing he's in
and like
love.
the middle of the street too,
which is like a very kind of cheesy Hollywood type thing. But and then he breaks out into song, goes to the mall and keeps singing, and everyone's just like eating food in like the food court. And he's like jumping in the fountain, like singing and stuff.
So good, so good. What was your favorite? If you had to pick one prank, what do you think your favorite prank was?
I don't know. I really like the shock humor type stuff. So the one that comes to mind is where they get their penises stuck in the Chinese finger trap, and then they're running around trying to get people to help them. That one was really, really good. But a slightly more one I think is actually more genuinely funny is when he's just working at the what is it? It was like a juice bar restaurant.
I love that part.
And then like
it's
people,
like a Jamba Juice.
Yeah, and he's just like making the food horrible. He's just like using his hands to like mix all
he's
the
like,
stuff.
all the best chefs cook with their hands.
Yeah, that was really good. And then like this high school sweetheart who he's in love with walks in, and then like they're already like the customers are mad at him already. Then he's like, "Oh, you can just come to the front of the line. Just come to the front." And they're like, "Why does she get to go to the front of the line? What is this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's on the house." And it just cuts to them just making their face like, "Oh, this is bullshit. Why are you keep cutting?" It's just so
it's
silly.
so funny.
What about you? Which one did you like the best?
I mean, the part I laughed the loudest, I think, is when he's just late for work and he just runs through the sliding glass door and it shatters and the girl gets so scared and she just like runs and hides under the board.
Yeah. I mean, that was good. Then like at the end of the movie, in the credits too, they like kind of show like behind the scenes of all these pranks. So like, I think they just hired like a maid to clean the house, and then like they knew that Eric was gonna be running through. And then they said she runs out of the house all scared, and she's like hiding by the porch after he runs through. Then she's like, in the credits behind the scenes, they were like, she was like, "Oh yeah, well I saw him running, and my first thought was, oh, someone's chasing him. I better get the hell out of here before they run into me too. I don't want to see who's coming next." She's like, "If you see someone running that fast, you got to get out of there." But it was very good. Another really really great part that I enjoyed was like to your point where it's bringing out the good in people, was when you expect it to go the route of like Borat, because it's like I forget where they're in. I think they're in like, I don't know, North or South Carolina maybe, and they want to go to some bar, so they go to like some like rodeo type bar, and then like it's all just kind of like cowboy looking conservative like white people there. And then they go in there and they're drinking, and like they're the only two black people.
Bud makes sure to point that out.
Yeah, and then Bud points out, like, "We're the only two black. We have to be careful." I'm like, "Oh god, what are they gonna do? They're gonna get into like something horrible. Like, they're expecting something bad to happen, or them to get kicked out or whatever." Mm-hmm. And then like the prank is that he just gets really drunk and then ends up like faking like falling off the top of like a little.
Yeah, and then they're really nice to that one lady's like, "Oh, I'm a nurse. Like we can help him out." Like,
yeah, and then they're really nice. But then like it shows them they're drinking, being silly, but then they're actually being friends and like chatting with everyone there.
Yeah, and they're like dancing with them and stuff.
They're all dancing. Yeah, they're all doing line dancing. So he goes out and does line dancing with them, and it's just a very good feeling, kind of happy.
Yeah.
That one was good. And then again, another good kind of wholesome bit that happened in it was when they're because the sister is looking for him. She breaks out of prison to go find her car that they stole from her, and then they go to like.
What did it say on the car? It said something really like.
I think it said like bad bitch or something in it.
Yeah, something like that. It wasn't Pussy Wagon. That's Kill Bill.
Yeah, I think it was like bad bitch. I mean, it's
I
an
think
all
so.
pink,
Yeah,
super
yeah.
ridiculous car.
It's like a pimp car. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's looking for him in like some like Denny's type diner or something. So she's like putting out posters with their faces on it. And then she leaves like immediately. Then right after she goes in, Eric Andre and Bud walk in. And then like their pictures are everywhere. Then everyone's like, "Oh, like that girl's looking for you," and you think they're gonna turn the two guys in, but then they end up like helping them hide and stuff. So
well, even too, like when she gets out of prison, she's like, "Oh shit, is that cop over there?" To like the construction worker guy, and then
yeah, and the construction guy like helps, and the cop's like, "Oh, did you see a girl run out of here?" Like, "No, I didn't see anything."
And then she's like trying to give him a hug. He's like, "Get away from me! I don't want to be associated."
Yeah, it's very, very good. That's what I mean. So like the pranks are genuinely funny. Like Eric Andre, he's known for his super, super over the top, like absurd pranks and kind of like meta humor. There's not as much meta stuff in this, but there's a little bit of it. So like it's good. So like it kind of has a little bit of shock value, but it's still not.
I mean, he's naked in like the first scene. His
But it's not as bad as like Borat. It's not like they're doing like full frontal male nudity like Bruno. Right. So it's a little bit more tasteful in my opinion, and I think it's more accessible than a lot of people think. I mean, I think people pretty well received Borat too, but this one feels a little bit more.
I mean, it's different. Like it's still like a prank movie, but it's totally different like tone and style from like the only similarity is that they both do pranks, but I feel like they're completely different in every other aspect.
Yeah, and for Eric Andre, it was fairly tamed compared to like his TV show. Like his TV show is just completely over the top, pretty incoherent.
Yeah, well, that's what I was worried about after watching like his stand-up comedy, and he's just like yelling the whole time. I was like, oh man, I hope the movie's not like that. But then no, I feel like the format was very very similar to his show, just more coherent.
Yeah, and it had like a pretty solid story too. Like you were invested in the plot enough. Yeah, it was like one we've seen before, but it was still like enough to kind of.
I mean, it's not like you're watching it for the plot anyway.
Yeah, even if you were like the main story, like at the end, is spoilers, even though it's not a big deal for this movie, but like it kind of turns the typical expectations of like all those dumb kind of teen road trip movies like Sex Drive, where it's like, oh, the teen boy driving across the United States to like lose his virginity.
Yeah, I mean, it hits every plot point where it's like, oh, the two best friends, they're gonna have an argument, and then they're gonna make up, and he's gonna like save him at the end. And
But I like how kind of self-aware because Eric, he plays a super crazy character. Like in this movie, he's insane, but in all those other movies, like Sex Drive, it's like, oh, this is completely normal for a boy to be going all the way over just to like have sex for the first time. Like, oh, this random girl he barely knows at all.
Yeah,
it's like same thing. It's like Eric's completely in love with this girl he hasn't even seen in 10 years.
Well, it's like the ending is like Under the Silver Lake, where it's just like, I don't even know you. It's like, why did you come all here? I don't even know you.
Yeah, it's like you're a fucking psychopath. Why are you even here right now? Like, get out of here. I mean, yeah, he did break her whole art exhibit, but like still, like even if he didn't, that's still like a psychopath thing to do. It's not normal, but it kind of points out how crazy and stupid it is. So I like movies that kind of are at least self-aware enough to kind of turn your expectations. Like, this is probably not the best type of message to be getting across. So it's more grounded in reality instead of.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things too, where it's like Eric Andre is not a normal person.
No, not at all. But they kind of establish like you're self-aware this guy's absolutely insane in the movie, and that kind of plays into it.
One part I really liked was it's just like a little thing, but I feel like it's something that we would do. It's just like when he and his friend have an argument, and he's like all sad, and then he just like keeps approaching like anyone who looks kind of like his friend. I feel like I just thought that was like just the concept was like so funny because that's like something we would do, or it's just like if we're at like a con or something and like we're looking for Eric, and then we just like find anyone with like curly red hair and be like, Eric?
Anyone with a ponytail. Yeah, and this is any movie where it has that kind of like happy, wholesome theme of like friendship is all you need in life. Like the kind of best friends, kind of that's what they discover is you're my true best friend is always.
Well, it's like one of those things. I feel like there are a lot of comedy movies coming out right now, and I feel like that's what we need since we're all just like stuck in COVID times for so long. The only other like happy movie I can think of was like the new Bill and Ted's movie, but. Bad Trip I liked way more.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Bad Trip, which was kind of sad too, and I'm glad it's getting a Netflix resurgence now, is that when it came out like I think the week when lockdown happened. So it was in theaters or was about to go into theaters the week before everything shut down, so it kind of got snubbed of its like theatrical release. But now a lot of people are watching it and liking it. So
yeah, I follow Eric Andre on Instagram, and he just like kept posting. It was like #1 on Netflix right now and stuff. So good for him. I want Eric Andre to get more exposure so we can get some more Eric Andre show.
Yeah, well, if we just make more of the Eric Andre show or more movies, or even just helping produce more comedies, kind of like that would just be great. Because I mean, if Netflix has the power to make a bunch of shit, but like I don't want to see any more Adam Sandler movies. We don't need any more Adam Sandler.
Whoa, I wouldn't go that far. But it's definitely need more Adam Sandler movies. What are you talking about?
Okay, yeah, fine. But if they have the ability to make like a 7-movie deal with Adam Sandler for probably a fraction of that cost, they could get Eric Andre making some movies on Netflix.
Well, I know Adam Sandler's like signing bonus is like $20 million is like his minimum. So I'm sure they could make like. I'm sure this movie had like a fraction of a budget of $20 million.
Oh, yeah, I feel like Eric Andre, if he just could make that, if they're like, oh, well, just fun to make the movie but not pay you, he'd probably just do it anyway because he wants to make crazy shit all the time.
Well, I just remember season 1 and 2 of the Eric Andre show are just like so garbage, filled in like his garage. But...
yeah. Like
I'd be fine if you went back to that format. Yeah.
Well, it worked for the show. I mean, it was just so silly and all the stuff he breaks. It was very.
Well, I feel like the Eric Andre show is very meta, where it's making fun of like talk shows, kind of like how Tim and Eric Awesome Show is like making fun of like late night infomercials from the '90s. His is like kind of making fun of like modern late night talk shows. So
yeah, no, I like those kind of like comedies that are rooted in like absurdity or pointing out absurdity in real life type things like that. And that's why I was so happy that like Tim and Eric were so successful and they were able to start with like Absolutely Productions. And they got like Nathan For You made and some of those other shows and stuff. And that's another good kind of prank show, Nathan For You. If you enjoy that show, you'll also love Bad Trip, most likely. But yeah, I don't have a lot more to say about Bad Trip. It's very funny. I don't want to spoil all the pranks for you if you haven't seen it yet, because it's a good movie. You should go watch it first, and then come back and watch this one.
And then I did like the fake Hannibal Buress. I felt like he was really funny, and he filled the role as the BFF.
Yeah, because in Eric Andre's show, Hannibal Buress is the straight man for all of Eric's kind of insanity. He helps ground it, and this guy isn't Hannibal Buress. I think I like Hannibal a little bit better, but this guy was pretty fun.
I feel like this guy actually worked better for the movie just because Hannibal is like so dry. I feel like being that dry wouldn't work for what this movie is as much. So I think I don't remember the actor's name. Just Bud was probably a better choice. I hate to say it, but
yeah, I feel like he's more of a kind of a relatable, likable, kind of normal guy.
Yeah,
he's a little bit, and like Eric or Hannibal Buress, he seems more of like a kind of chaotic, neutral type person. Whereas the guy in this Bud, he seemed more just like a good, kind of chaotic good, I guess, in a sense.
Well, he's just the best friend, and he plays the best friend. I feel like if it was Hannibal Buress, everyone watching the movie would kind of go in with the expectations that it's the same as the Eric Andre show.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would work as well.
Yeah, and their dynamic on the Eric Andre show is a little weird. But did you watch the newest season of Eric Andre's show? I don't even think Hannibal Buress is in it.
No, so he's in the first episode, but what happened was... just like a week before they started filming, Hannibal was just decided he didn't want to do it. And then Eric convinced him to do like one episode so they could kind of say goodbye to him. And then he leaves the show and he clones him, and then the clone is this weird looking Hannibal Buress.
It's just like the big caveman guy, right?
Yeah.
That's like doesn't even talk or do anything.
But then I saw an interview with Hannibal, and they asked him why he left. He kind of just gave a generic PR answer where he's like, "Oh, I'm working on so many projects, it was time to like move on." So he didn't give like a real reason, but
I mean, there's probably a lot of I mean, he probably does have other stuff he's working on too, and I could imagine after working with Eric Andre for that long with that who's that crazy.
It probably wears you out. Yeah,
it's probably pretty stressful too, and like just I mean, he's pranking people and like. They're just kind of celebrity interviews, but I'm sure it can be kind of uncomfortable and not that fun, and probably make the interviewer kind of pissed off.
Yeah, he has to stand, and he doesn't want to stand anymore.
Yeah, and there's probably only so much you can take of just like blanks with like fake guns and Eric getting fake shot and just destroying the desk and all this loud, obnoxious chaos just happening.
He was like, "Eric, if I see your penis one more time, I'm quitting."
I can only see so much male nudity at your work until you gotta get out of there. Oh gosh, but yeah, I mean, there's another example of something like that. I was thinking of like what is it, like Filthy Frank on YouTube. How like
Just,
his
yeah.
videos, he was like kind of escalating. Like he started doing pretty crazy kind of like gross type things and like shock humor in his videos.
Yeah,
and it just escalated over the years. And he does like his kind of like deep, gross ass voice that he has. Like, oh, I'm Filthy Frank. And he said that was like destroying his vocals and like he just felt horrible all the time because he just do like gross, demeaning stuff.
Well, I mean, I saw that
like,
one towards the end of his career where they make the vomit cake, and I was like, oh man, that's pretty gross even for Filthy Frank.
Yeah, that was really bad. So I think he even came out because now he has his like Joe G, his music,
Yeah, he's
kind of like
Joe G
reinvented
now.
himself,
Yeah.
which is good. But I think he said like, oh yeah, I had to stop making those videos because it was just destroying my mental health. Like I just felt horrible all the time. Like it's just not worth it. I'm like, I don't blame you. You got very wild. So
Yeah.
I can see you have to be a certain type of crazy to Eric Andre type pranks. Maybe not everyone's can do it forever. Especially like it's season 5 of Eric Andre's show now, so it's a long run.
Yeah, and he's been doing a lot of stuff too now too. Mm-hmm. So keep it up, Eric. I'll watch more of your content.
Yeah. So I mean, if it's not obvious by now, would you recommend Bad Trip to anyone?
Yes, definitely. I can't think of anyone who wouldn't like this movie. Not for children, I guess, but
I think children would probably like it. They probably think it's pretty funny. Their parents wouldn't be happy with them watching it, but I think they would.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good comedy. If you want laughs, this movie delivers. It's fun for everyone. I thought it was funny. Charlie thought it was funny.
And it's much funnier than the movie we're going to be talking about next.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, so for our next movie, we're going to be reviewing Thunder Force, directed by Ben Falcone, starring Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer. So, what were your first impressions of this movie, James?
I actually thought it was funnier than I anticipated. So I found myself laughing more than I wanted to. I'll admit, but
yeah,
I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but it had some funny moments. It's a very typical like mom or comedy, I would say.
Yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I mean, I had pretty low expectations based off of the trailer. She's made like a bunch of garbage. When she's like in serious movies, she's actually like a good actress. It's just that to pick up her, I feel like she started off her career kind of being one of those like overweight, empowering, silly women that was like really popular like 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then her whole career would kind of start off based on that. But I mean, she got Academy Award nominee for Can You Forgive Me, which she was really good in. And then even like a lot of her other roles, you can only do so much with some of these scripts. Like, I liked her in Happy Time Murders, but that movie wasn't great.
Yeah, no, that one wasn't great. But, like, yeah, I first saw her in Gilmore Girls when that show was on TV a very long time ago. She was good in that. She's a great actress. But, yeah, just some of these movies, it's like I'm getting Adam Sandler vibes again. It's like you'll see him in like what is it, Punch Drunk Love or Uncut Gems, and you're like, oh, he's a respectable actor.
Yeah,
and then you see
can act
like,
when he tries.
Yeah, and then there's like these Jack and Jill or like Hubie Halloween or Sandy Wexler, and you're like, what is this? This is like barely even a fucking movie. Well,
that's the thing too. I feel like she needs a really good script. Like I know for the Ghostbusters, the 2016 Paul Feig remake that was like all girl cast. I know for that one they had a lot of improv, and she was not funny at all in that. So I feel like if she has a good script, she could make it work. And this movie had an okay script.
Yeah, everything like there was enough like setup on payoff. Moving from scene to scene, it was fine. The pacing was a little strange, which we can get into.
Well,
later.
yeah, that's the thing too. Like it was advertised as like a misfit kind of superhero movie, but it was actually more of just like a buddy girl best friend type movie.
Yeah, just kind of like a silly friend comedy, which it was good. I think that's why it has such bad ratings. Like it has like a 4 out of 10 on IMDb, like a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, if you're going in expecting like a Avengers movie, you're not going to get that with this one.
Yeah, this is not a superhero. It's not like Deadpool. It's not even really spoofing superhero movies at all. It's just like a kind of a drama that has superheroes in it.
Yeah.
And then with Melissa McCarthy, I don't care for her humor too much. I think she's funnier than like Adam Sandler, but
I feel like she is pretty hit or miss.
Yeah, but this movie, I really felt the hit or miss. Like there was some cringe humor in this where she's like purposely trying to be awkward and dumb, and I could not stand those scenes.
Yeah, I feel like some of them they just went on for too long, where they kept just kind of like repeating the joke, and I've mentioned that before. in our videos that I kind of, it's just, I think it's not funny. Like, the joke should be good enough on its own. You don't have to say that was a joke after the joke.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to be like have repeat humor. Like in this movie, she likes eating raw chicken because that's part of the getting the superhero powers. It's like a side effect that she craves raw chicken, which is silly and fine. And then like she keeps eating raw chicken later. And then she's on a date, and like her other superhero boyfriend Jason Bateman likes the raw meat too. So that's kind of fun. It's fine. It's repeat humor, no problem. But there's certain things where they just like, oh, I'm really awkward, and then like someone's like staring at her and she's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you are awkward, and then someone else walks by, hey, look at that awkward person.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not funny. Like that 3-beat, very SNL type joke humor.
I feel like that's really popular. I mentioned it before in Guardians of the Galaxy too, and that kind of humor doesn't work. But I feel like this movie definitely had some really funny parts, so I enjoyed that. My favorite part, I don't even know if it was a joke, but when she meets this random old man who you think is going to be an important character, but he comes back like briefly for 1 minute. He tells a really long story about skipping a rock in a lake, and it was just so awkward and just like rambled on and made no sense, and I thought it was hilarious.
That part was really, really funny. Yeah, that old analogy was great. I thought that was like her dad or something at first, which was good.
Yeah, I was really hoping that would be like he'd be a reoccurring character and he would just like keep on telling these long pointless stories like that, but sadly he was just in it for like a brief second and didn't do anything.
Yeah, he came back later in the movie, but it was more of just like the location of it happening. So like when his spoilers, his diner gets blown up by the laser lady, you can feel a little bit more sympathy for her, so it feels a little bit more impact, so it's fine. But yeah, I would have liked some more silly stories.
Yeah, I would have liked more of those jokes.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say with the humor and stuff, I was going into it like the little flashback when they were kids for the intro. That scene was fine. I didn't find it particularly funny.
I want to say one thing about that though. The little girl looked exactly like Melissa McCarthy though.
They did a really good job.
I thought that was really funny. I thought that itself just like made it 10 times funnier.
Yeah, they did a good job casting that. But yeah, like that part wasn't too funny. Then like they had like their argument like as they got older because they like parted their ways, in the intro scene, because like they're friends, but then the one girl just wants to try really hard to be a superhero or whatever, to redeem her parents. Like that, I get it, but I feel like their reasoning for them having a falling out, like the scene they used was just a horrible example and just terrible writing. It's like they have a sleepover, and then like Melissa McCarthy, like, oh, I'll wake you up, or like they're studying together, and Melissa like, oh, you need a break. You should just take a 30-minute nap, and I'll wake you up before so you can study more tonight. And then like Melissa McCarthy, of course, falls asleep, and then they sleep through the whole night, and then the other girl doesn't get to study at all. And then she's like, you don't care about anything. And then they go and get mad and have an argument. But it's like, I don't know. It felt like it was very sudden. It felt like it was kind of a stupid reason. I didn't get why they were so mad. It's like, you still fell asleep. And like, I don't know. Like, it was just kind of
I agree. I feel like
it was weird.
Like, this movie, it was only an hour and 40 minutes. And I feel like there was a lot of stuff got cut. Like, I feel like more stuff was planned to happen. And I don't know if they, like, just didn't have the budget or they just had to like trim it down for whatever reason. But I feel like this movie was meant to be a lot longer, which kind of leads to some of the pacing problems where the whole movie is kind of like the part when they're kids was like really long intro. I thought that would be like
15 minutes, I think.
Yeah. And then after that, it's just like them training to be superhero for a really long time.
That's like half the movie. That's like a big bulk of the movie.
Yeah. And then it's like a superhero movie in like the last like 30 minutes, which I thought was weird. And I feel like they had set up for a lot more. Like, I feel like, oh, they're spending so much time with these when they're like little kids because they're going to like set some more stuff up to show up later. And like with that old man telling the long story, I felt like he was going to be a more important character. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what was going on with that. It just felt like pieces of the movie were missing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it. Like, I feel like it makes sense that they focus so much on their friendship dynamic, which is good because like superhero movies usually are missing that. Like, there's not a lot of character development, like we were talking about in the Justice League Zack Snyder movie. Like, you want to see all these cool superheroes come together and interact, but there's very little bonding between any of them. They just feel like they're serious superhero people. They're not relatable at all, any way, shape, or form, except for maybe Flash. But then, like, this movie's just all kind of drama. It's like, I superhero powers, it wouldn't even really matter that much.
I really enjoyed watching them, like, reconnect, and then Melissa McCarthy spending time with Octavia Spencer's daughter and stuff. I thought all that stuff was really good. And then I feel like the superhero stuff was kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about the director's other movies. He did, like, Tammy, which also had... They're all Melissa McCarthy for the most part. And there's another one called Super Intelligence, which I saw the trailer for because it's the same director. Mm-hmm. That movie looks horribly bad, but I kind of want to watch it. It's like Melissa McCarthy gets targeted by an AI who is going to destroy the world unless she redeems hope and humanity. And so, like, she's just hanging out with this AI, but the AI is James Corden does the voice of the AI. It looks really, really stupid, but I kind of want to watch it.
I mean, I'm kind of interested now too.
So maybe we'll do a part 2, Super Intelligence. But yeah. Anyway, at the beginning, the jokes weren't that great, but the drama got good, so that carried me enough to be at least.
The like middle chunk of them like reconnecting and training was definitely the most interesting part.
I don't know if it was. I liked that part. I'd say the part that was more interesting was her and Jason Bateman's romance.
Oh, that was pretty funny. Much better than Identity Thief.
Oh yeah, Identity Thief. I just hated that movie. But they had pretty good. I wouldn't say they had chemistry in this movie, but for the jokes of their joke relationship stuff, that was good.
Jason Bateman I thought was really funny. Just how he was just so like aloof about everything.
Yeah, I think it's just worth watching for his part, honestly, in this movie. He was really good.
Those sexy crab arms that he has. that guy just rips off his arms. And he has the tiny claw that grows back.
Yeah, he was hilarious.
I mean, I really like Jason Bateman too, ever since Arrested Development. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he was good. He was. Really
and then a little thing too. Whenever like he got spooked, he would run away like a crab. It reminded me of Zoidberg from Futurama.
Oh yeah, I did. He had his little claws up and was pinching, going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by it. But there were some parts that were I did not care for. Some of the jokes that were really bad was when she was at her high school reunion, and they had to call back to that creepy guy who I thought.
Oh yes, yeah. Again. I feel like that's another thing that got cut. I feel like there's no way they showed him as a little kid and as an adult for that terrible joke.
Yeah. I mean, but that like him doing the knock knock joke wrong. Oh my god,
it went on and on and on.
Like that stuff I didn't care for, but I really liked the scene where she's like having breakfast. She's eating like cereal, and then like I guess the milk's bad or something. So she's this is really gross. So she's like drinking like a PBR or something with her cereal. Like,
it's like a fake PBR.
Yeah, but it's like she like tastes the cereal. Like, wow, this is really bad cereal. Is it the milk? So she like smells the milk. Then she drinks the milk. Oh, this is horrible milk. So then she's like, oh, maybe I'll water it down with my beer. Then she pours the beer, and then she takes it like, oh, that's really bad too.
Yeah.
It's like, those jokes I thought were really funny. So I was surprised.
Yeah, I feel like they just did like the shotgun effect where they're just gonna put a whole bunch of jokes on, and then some will hit and some will miss. And then...
Yeah, and that's why I liked like the training montage. Like they had an actual training montage in this movie, unlike in Wonder Woman 84, where like we said, they missed out on having a cool 80s soundtrack. This movie had lots of old classic.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our dad would really like it with all the classic rock, the AC/DC, some Slayer.
Yeah, Slayer. That was another nice touch. Like, I'm not a big Slayer fan, but she had the Slayer shirt on when she was a kid and younger, and they kind of made a point to it. Then at the end, they played Slayer when she was fighting the bad guy. I'm like, oh, this is exactly what you need from. It's not like a crazy song.
Yeah, it's like so simple, but it works so well.
Yeah, they did a lot right with this movie, so it's not a great movie, but they did a lot right. I could see people enjoying it.
Yeah, no, it definitely like hit the points that it needed to make, but I just feel like you said it just was mismarketed.
Yes, very mismarketed, but that's not always a bad thing.
Oh. Well, that's the thing too. Like they keep talking about the miscreants, but they don't really like show any. Like I was kind of expecting just like maybe like they're watching the news and it shows like a miscreant other than Laser, or like when they do like the montage, like it shows them like tying up bad guys, but doesn't show like any of their superpowers. I just thought it made the world seem small, you know?
Yeah, they didn't get into the lore or like the background of stuff happening that much. Like they have like the mayor thing, so it's kind of like tied to the city. But there's also weird stuff too. It's like, okay, at the beginning they say everyone has superpowers, but it's only the sociopaths who get superpowers because of like some genetic thing that makes you a sociopath, makes you more powerful or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But then Jason Bateman, he has superpowers, but it's not because of that. It's because he got bit on the testicle by a radioactive crab.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so if he's not if he has superpowers, but he's not a miscreant, then are there other people like that too? Like,
Dude, Octavia Spencer wasted so much time. She should have just gotten some more radioactive crabs instead of studying so much.
Exactly. And he didn't even really seem to have a superpower. He's just a henchman who happened to have crab arms.
I know.
I
thought he was going to like block bullets or something at some point, but nope, he didn't do anything.
He did absolutely nothing the whole movie, which I thought was really funny too.
A joke that really resonated with me, but it's probably just a me specific thing, that they kept making fun of that guy named Andrew, and I just always think people named Andrew are always extra funny because of our old friend Andrew. So I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that was like the whole evil henchman kind of banter back and forth they had was done really well. It's like how the evil bad guy wanted to flex and he'd get mad and kill one of the henchmen. And it's like, oh, you killed Kevin. It's like, or killed. I think it was Kenny actually, because it reminded me of South.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you killed Kenny. And then he's like, oh man, Kenny, I liked Kenny. Wow, he was one of the better ones. Well, who do we have now? It's like, oh, we have Andrew now. And everyone's like, oh.
Well, I feel like
he just
that's
introduces himself too, and it's just the worst introduction ever.
I feel like that's one of those parts where it's actually like poking fun at superhero movies, because I feel like that's like a trope where like the main villain gets mad and kills one of his henchmen, but it's like, why would someone ever do that in real life? That's just going to make like your henchman not want to help you anymore.
Yeah, I kind of wish they kind of did more spoof stuff with the superhero things. Like that was a little bit, but there's not a lot of that in the movie. Like, it has the tropes, but
I had like a few jokes like that.
It's not like very in your face like The Boys is, with like the straight up mocking it and stuff.
Yeah.
But I did like what I think. My theory is why the pacing was kind of weird. Back to that, why there was spent so much time on their friendship dynamic and all that stuff. I would assume it's because they wanted to kind of really push the jokes in the movie, and I feel like there was a lot of jokes in the training that was more lighthearted type stuff.
Yeah.
And then once the romance with Jason Bateman started, that had a whole other dynamic of jokes.
Well, that's what my thought was. They filmed like one scene with her and Jason Bateman, and then they thought it was so funny. They're like, oh, we need to have Jason Bateman in this more because like he did such a good job. So they cut other stuff to put him in it more, because some of those scenes did seem a little long compared to like the rest of the movie. Like when they're at dinner on their first date.
Oh yeah.
I felt like that scene was really long. Like I thought it was funny, but it just seemed longer than a lot of other scenes in the movie, so it was kind of out of place.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like when they first like meet and then like they break into like their 80s dance song or whatever,
yeah,
and, like fantasizing about it, like that felt super out of place. And I'm like, oh, well, they come back and it plays into the plot. But that was just so like ridiculous. And there's so many little things like that. I feel like they had so much fun making this movie. Like they just like, oh, how funny it would be if they fall in love. Oh yeah, we can do an 80s dance montage.
Well, I thought it was.
Love it.
And then I love the end of that scene where Jason Bateman's just like, okay, you won. We're just gonna leave now. What else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna leave. Okay, don't do anything else.
It's like, what? You're gonna kill us now? You're just as bad as us. You're not gonna do that. Come on.
Yeah.
I thought for sure they were gonna go the route though that a lot of superhero movies do, where it's like, oh, they were tasing the bad guy. And they tased him for too long, and then they're videotaping it on social media.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're going to be painted as the bad guys now. No one's going to like them because they are, like, abusing these people way too much. But
no, but instead it just gave him a burn on his face that everyone just bullied him for.
I know. Yeah, there were some really silly kind of jokes that were pretty original. I hadn't really seen some of the bits of them, but they were kind of like new.
Yeah, it's actually because like Melissa McCarthy kind of did her kind of like gross out humor, but I feel like the rest of the jokes were pretty like unique and like clever.
Yeah, they were witty and they were well done. So I enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah,
not as like crazy absurd as like Bad Trip is, but it was a good laughs.
Yeah.
Another joke I really wanted to mention just because it gave me some Tim and Eric vibes. It was like, oh, what are the, like they were talking about the different side effects. And like one of the running jokes was like, oh, she had to get needles in her face for her superpower treatment. And the other one was like, oh, I have to take my pills. And then like, oh, come on, you got to get, like, what does it do this? Like, my face is swollen, the injection's sucking. You don't have anything. You swallow a pill. Then like, yeah, then she's like, well, at least like you get diarrhea or something. She's like, oh yeah, I get diarrhea. Severe diarrhea every day.
That's a given.
That's a given. I thought that was really funny. That's my favorite part. That was so good. But yeah, that joke was great. But I think the real star of the movie was Jason Bateman in their
Yeah,
little role.
yeah. So speaking of performances, I felt like Octavia Spencer did not do a great job in this. I haven't seen a lot of her movies. The one that comes to mind, unfortunately, is Ma, which she fit that role pretty well, I guess. But in this movie, she just was so boring, and I guess she was supposed to be kind of boring, but I don't know. I didn't think her performance was great.
I mean, it's not like she did a horrible job acting. She just didn't really stand out as like that. She just kind of played the typical like serious, smart mother who was kind of trying to play it straight. But yeah, she wasn't. I didn't care for her.
I don't know,
that
but
much.
I mean, if she's so smart, she could probably like think of a better comeback where it's like, I'm not a nerd, I'm smart. There's a difference. Like,
Yeah, well, I think
they
that's also,
gonna.
they're also trying to like play into like the themes of the movie with that one. It's like cool to be smart, I guess, but yeah.
No, it's cool to play Fortnite. Is what I got.
Yeah, I almost feel like they wanted to make fun of her more when they were doing it because like they wanted to make fun of her nerdy, but it probably came off as too mean spirited because I feel like she wanted to go into the nerdy route, especially if you're like comparing it to like old school like Adam Sandler movies, which is very heavy handed bullying like the other
Yeah,
people.
like they're gonna make fun of a
Yeah.
disabled person, an old person's gonna get hurt. Like,
Yeah, that's very Adam Sandler cliche. So in this movie, like, oh, she's a nerd being bullied, I thought they're gonna play into that more. But instead, they didn't really. Not that they should do that, but that's just kind of what I expect from watching so many comedies.
Yeah,
So maybe
I
that
don't
was
know.
the setup, but
I just feel like they could have done more with her character, and then like I don't want to hate because I like Octavia Spencer, but I feel like if from the beginning she was planning on giving herself superpowers, she could have like prepared better.
yeah, it's
Like
also,
she did not like. I feel like she's kind of older. She wasn't like athletic. She didn't know how to fight. I feel like she should kind of know those things before giving herself the superpower. And then even like very surface level, her power was invisibility. I feel like she should be clever with it. Like she
Yeah,
didn't
she didn't
really
use her
do
superpower
anything
that
until like
much.
the very end. And then even then, it didn't really come down to the invisibility like that much. That was more like she finally learned how to fight.
yeah, and it's also like why if her main weapon is that taser, why would they invent a taser that ruins her superpower?
Yeah.
That makes her not invisible anymore.
Yeah.
No, that's
Like,
another thing. Yeah, that's a fair point though, because they didn't develop a lot of her. Like she's supposed to be really smart, and I guess she built the super serum, but that's kind of it. It's not like she used her wits throughout for her powers.
Yeah,
throughout the
exactly. Like
movie.
I could understand like, oh, she's smart, she's gonna get invisibility and like use invisibility in clever ways, but the whole time she's just like hiding, and then Melissa McCarthy still has to like protect her.
Yeah, and
It's
she
just
doesn't
like
really even have an arc either. Like, yeah, she's hiding all
Yeah.
the time, but she's still kind of like that nervous, not that outgoing, not that social of a
I guess her
person.
arc was like she is gonna be less strict with her daughter, but even that it was pretty weak.
Yeah, I feel like they developed more with Melissa McCarthy and her daughter
Yeah,
than the actual mom. So I mean, yeah, they could have done more. I didn't notice it at the time because I was so focused on like Melissa McCarthy. But that's a very good point. Her arc was more so, oh, she's friends with Melissa McCarthy again now, and like embraces the kind of like stupidity of her and accepts her as a friend. But that's not really a personal arc for her. I don't think she
Yeah.
really changed at all. She's still kind of the same person. Even with Melissa McCarthy, I don't think she's pretty much standard throughout the movie too. It's just she's in love with Jason Bateman, but at least she gets like a superpower. I don't know. They didn't do a lot of arcs, but their friendship dynamic was whatever.
Yeah, but I just like I said, I just kind of wanted a little bit more because she is a good actress. Like I didn't see Hidden Figures, but that movie was supposed to be really good, and she was really good in what was it, The Help? I saw that a while ago, but yeah.
But I mean, this is a very different, just dumb superhero comedy movie. But
Yeah, I mean,
to
I'm
your
sure.
point, though, I mean, yes, they could have done it because they marketed it as like a dumb superhero movie, but they spent like 45 minutes developing.
Yeah,
the characters.
exactly.
There's no
Exactly.
action. Like, yeah, maybe those scenes were just to like play into jokes, or just scenes for jokes' sake.
Mm-hmm.
But still, when they're spending a lot of time, it's pretty much a drama at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
You would expect to have more of a dramatic ending and more of like a character arc or something like that. Even their falling out felt pretty superficial when she threw the bus.
Yeah, especially since they spent so much time on it. Like if it was like a 5-minute montage of them as little kids, that would have been fine. But then that was like 15, 20 minutes of them. Being
Yeah,
kids.
maybe what happened is they were developing it to be kind of more serious and have them have a falling out. Maybe the falling out would have been more dramatic between them. But then when they saw how much of a star Jason Bateman was and that whole crab arms love
That's
romance
my theory,
dynamic,
too.
they
That's
replaced
my-
all those scenes of friendship with the love interest.
That's my theory as well. I mean, who doesn't love Jason Bateman? Honestly, I feel like between Arrested Development and the Ozarks, everyone just loves him now.
Oh yeah, no, he's good. He's real good. But yeah, this movie, all honesty, their romance dynamic, and then Melissa McCarthy eating raw chicken, it really it gave her a few points for me. She got some cool points. I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't love her movies, but I was surprised. She did a lot of dumb shit though that didn't make sense to me. That kind of bothered me in the movie. She was really stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, I think she's supposed to be. That was like her character.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing where like that humor I don't care for that much. Like she's in the lab, and then like her friend's like, "Oh, don't touch anything in the lab," and she's like walking around like, "Oh, look at me, not touching anything."
Yeah,
just, like,
yeah. I feel like
up.
they could.
Oh, I'm not touching anything. Oh, what's this button do? Oh, I'm not touching anything. And
yeah.
This is a little too much.
Well, that's the thing I was thinking too. I was like, who is the target audience for this movie? Like, I feel like little kids probably wouldn't like it, and I feel like teenagers might think it's okay, but I feel like that's one of the problems it has.
I think it's for like, because with what now, like, I think it's getting more acceptable for like older people to like Star Wars and superhero movies. Like people in there, like, I'd say this is more of an attempt to kind of capture that like the kind of man child, but for female audiences. So I'd say like women 30 to like.
So it's like 50. A wine country.
No, but wine country I think is a little bit more for like, that's like 40 to like.
Yeah,
60.
you mean like like more nerd culture.
This is like just like late 20s maybe, like kind of parents who don't want the raunchy stuff, but is a little more younger, kind of like down to earth. Like, yeah, I'm I don't know, like a cool person who goes to shows and wants to have fun, but also I'm growing into an adult with like a mom responsibility type stuff.
I guess that makes sense. So.
That's what I was thinking. But yeah, because it's not really for moms, I don't think. It's not really for teenagers because I don't know, it doesn't quite, it's still a little too serious and weird. So yeah, it's a strange audience one. It's not.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the problems that it had.
But then again, that could just be maybe because now with like Netflix making movies and stuff, they just kind of let people make movies just to see what does good. They're not like Hollywood creating movies with an audience in mind. So. Well,
I feel like now you can tell like with Netflix which ones are like algorithm. I feel like their shows are all very like algorithm based, and now they're giving more creative freedom to the directors of the movie side of their business.
Well, and with Netflix too, sometimes they'll say things are like it's like a Netflix show, but really, like I think with like the Ju-on show, I don't know if they actually were involved at all with the making of it. I think they just this show is good, let's buy it and release it on Netflix for whatever reason. So,
I mean that's why I love Amazon Prime Studios so much, because they give so much freedom and you just get garbage shows like Tokyo Vampire Hotel and Too Old to Die Young, and shows that would like never get made by like a studio.
Yeah, and what the one show was, the other one, 10 Star with Tim Roth in it.
So weird.
That one's just I mean, maybe that show's big in like the UK or something, but God, that is like just a strange tone of a TV show. It's like it's such a dark, horrible matter, but then like he's kind of an outlandish, like alcoholic cop to the point of like comedy.
And it's like ridiculous, yeah.
It's just weird. And then there's like, but it's well made too. Like, they have like long, sweeping cinematography.
It has like a lot of nature shots because it's like in nowhere Canada.
Yeah. Very strange, but yeah, Amazon just kind of lets them do whatever. So that's why I'm kind of thinking that with Thunder Force, I think they just had a fun time making it. Kind of like, make a dumb, kind of funny, lighthearted
That's kind of what I think
comedy.
Too. I feel like they had like a loose script, and then they just kind of what they thought was funny, they filmed more of, and that's like the Jason Bateman thing. They're like, oh wow, he's really funny, let's give him a bigger part. And then the montage of them training, they probably liked that, so they added a little bit more. That one guy kept getting hurt. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I always appreciate... I love comedies and I love horror, obviously, so I'm slightly biased. But if a movie's being made to just surface joke after joke after joke, which this movie, there's plenty of jokes in every scene. There wasn't really any not silly. Even like the serious parts where she like threw the bus, is that being a main plot point? Like, it's kind of dumb, but it's still kind of funny. Like, she threw a bus, and it's like, that's pretty silly.
Well, I like all the stuff where they, the meta stuff with superhero movies where they like try to strike like a superhero pose, but then their like timing's off, and they're like, oh, let's do it again, or like the bad guys like slowly walk away, and they're like, oh no, we actually need to go that way, not that way, and stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot of just silly things like that, the kind of awkward, or like they're so serious. I mean, that's again, I think that's just from Snyder being so serious with his superhero movies. Now they're mocking it.
Well, and then like with me and you specifically, we're like so sick of superhero movies. Like anything making fun of them.
Yeah,
is a bonus in my book.
Well, I mean, yeah, superhero movies. It's like, yeah, they're cool superhero movies, but these are like children's comic books. It's like, why? I get, like, if you like superhero movies, sure, it's fun, but at the end of the day, they're still just kind of kids' movies. So, like, with Zack Snyder taking his super serious take on it, in my mind, it's like, let's make an edgy version of Toy Story. You're like, what?
Yeah.
It's just silly to me.
Well, I mean, that's like my big thing with like Batman too. Like, I always just think of those like ridiculous ones with Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Iceman, Jim Carrey as the Riddler, Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Like, it's so funny, and I feel like that's like the true Batman comic books are probably a lot closer to those movies than the current movies.
I mean, we got like The Dark Knight with Christopher Nolan, which are fine movies, but those are more just crime movies with a little bit of superhero stuff. Like Joker's like Robin Banks and stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, my big thing, I'm just tired of these big blue lasers shooting up in the air, gonna destroy the world.
But it's just silly to me. And it's like these comics, again, these are made for 13-year-old boys. All of those comics and even superhero movies, like all those big action, they're made for 13-year-old boys. So if that's, I mean, if you like it, I'm okay with that. Like, I love children's stuff. I love all this dumb stuff. But if you're gonna make a super serious 4-hour-long epic action movie with the Justice League and play it seriously, not treat it like a superhero movie that's made for 13-year-olds, I don't know. That's where it gets a little shaky for me.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, Zack Snyder's like one of those. He lives in a different reality than the rest of us.
Yeah. I mean, the action scenes are cool, so I guess he does that well. I feel like Zack Snyder, all he wants to do is just make cool, big action scenes that look sick.
Yeah,
and he did that. He did some cool action scenes. Not gonna lie.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the action scenes in 300 were better though. If we want to go.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Like, I feel like that style of like the slow motion, over the top stuff, it works for really over dramatic type movies. And
I feel like it works for things more grounded in reality. Like with superheroes, like I said, it's just boring because there's no stakes. Like, how many times are you gonna watch like superhero number 10 get thrown through a building? It's like it doesn't matter. And like Wonder Woman's basically like bulletproof now, so it's like, who cares? Like, she's gonna win when someone shoots at her.
Yeah, like in 300, it works so well because it's like a group of 300 soldiers fighting a giant army, and they're gonna probably die.
Yeah, and
so
they all do die.
And that's why it's so dramatic. You're like, damn, you guys are fighting for their death. This is serious. Whereas like in Justice League, there's like a dramatic like 20-minute scene of like the Flash running at the speed of light to like touch a fucking GameCube to like reset it, and it's like, it's super dramatic and looks cool, but like it's so silly, the concept of making him run, and then he just flops and falls around. It's like, yeah, well, it's not like he's gonna die running the speed. Like, if he was running to his death and this was his final moment that he had to do to save the world, sure, but he's not gonna fucking die. So
yeah, I even feel like I didn't watch the Avengers movies, but I feel like whoever died in those is gonna be coming back at some point.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, it's just, especially all these different times. Now they're writing themselves into holes where it's like, okay, if they created a whole nother alternate universe by the Flash running at the speed of light, that means no one can really die. So that means they're going to have other versions of themselves. There's 2 fucking Batmans. Ben Affleck's going to die, but then the other Batman from the other universe is going to come. It's like,
oh, hopefully the other Batman's not played by Ben Affleck.
2 Ben Afflecks. That's what we need to make Justice League better. 2 Ben Afflecks.
I think what we need is just to bring back Eddie Murphy, and he just plays the whole Justice League.
All of
them. Nutty Professor style.
Dude, or just get Mike Myers playing every member of it. All of the Avengers. Dude, that would be interesting if Mike Myers, like, instead of Robert Downey Jr., Mike Myers just played Iron Man. That would be an interesting take.
I'd rather just have Shrek join the Avengers, and then he can just play Shrek.
I would be okay with that. Like, just a big green ogre with his superpowers. He's just
they already stinky. And you watch him fight the Hulk. Now that is what I would want to see.
And he has like onion bombs on his belt and stuff, and like he just farts a whole bunch. Has like his giant ogre roar. That would be good.
At the end, like the enemy's like in like a trash dump, and it's too stinky for everyone to go in, and Shrek has to go and save the day.
Yeah, he swims through the sewers of the city and all the shit because he likes the smell. But yeah, there was no overly dramatic action scenes in Thunder Force.
I mean, Thunder Force is like barely a superhero movie.
Yeah, but I did enjoy the fight scene at the end where they just like launched him out the window and stuff. The bad guy. It was a fine fight. It was good.
Yeah,
but to your point, there was no stakes really though at any point in the movie.
I mean, I guess they tried to make you think that Melissa McCarthy was gonna die because she like jumped on the bomb, but it's like, come on. Come on.
Yeah, you know she's not gonna die. And that's another a big problem with that. Okay, so that was really a stupid plot point. Okay, so she had to like take the bomb to like, I have to absorb the blast to like stop it from destroying everything. But it's like, couldn't she just have pulled like a Wonder Woman or just jumps up through the roof and
That's
throws
exactly
it in the
what
air?
I was thinking too. Just jump and throw it like every other superhero
Or
movie.
even more simple, you don't even need superpowers for this one. Okay, she jumps with the bomb into the river. Why wouldn't she have just thrown the bomb in the river? Like, did her wrapping her whole body around it really stop the blast from, like, would it have destroyed the whole street and, like, city block? I don't think so.
I mean,
she could have
it's
just
still
thrown
bad,
it in the
yeah.
river. Why didn't she just throw it in the river and just leave it there? Why did she have to jump with it?
I did kind of like how they
know.
made a joke though about how they're wasting so much time talking, and then they
Yeah.
could have read it. I liked that.
Yeah, but I mean, see, there's a difference though between making like a purposeful joke of like,
Yeah.
we're doing it for movie's sake, and then versus just like, that's just writing. Like they didn't even need to have that in the movie. Like,
Yeah, because you know Zack Snyder would do the same thing where they have like this long farewell, and then they take out the bomb and die. But
yeah, it's just so unnecessary. Yeah. It's so unnecessary. I just like they could have thought of something a little bit more clever for how to sacrifice herself or something.
I thought she was gonna like swallow it or something. She's like, I've been eating so much chicken lately.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was gonna be like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know which wire to pull. I even know. And it's like, you're the smart one. Why can't you figure it out? And then like Melissa McCarthy like accidentally just like falls or like puts her hand on it and rips out a random wire and then just deactivates it.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah,
like
yeah. Just make another joke instead of serious. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Octavia Spencer. I don't think she was that smart. She was supposed to be the smart one. I don't think she was that smart.
Yeah, I don't know. She built the serum, but if she was so fucking smart, why did it take her? If it took her 5 years to make the formula, is it because it has to like mix it for 5 years?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like they already have the formula. Why can't she just make more? Like the ingredients super rare or something? Like
yeah, I mean, I guess she said it was expensive is the logic, but like it didn't seem like money was a problem. And if it's a superhero like thing with money and stuff, like
I feel like if she can
seems like pretty important.
Yeah.
In fact, the
if she
CIA
can prove
is
it
investing.
works, then they could probably invest in it. Like, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they could have, like, at least, like, for the movie's sake, if they wanted to have a better tie-in of why they couldn't give it to someone else, like, have, like, a timeline type thing. It's like, one of the superheroes was going to, like, blow up the city or something in, like, a week. So then they don't have time to, like, have it, like, go on to someone new.
Well, my big thing, too, is even go simpler. Just be super lazy. Like, a meteorite fell, and we only had this rare mineral on it, and we only have enough for 2 doses. Like I feel like having like throwaway explanations like that is really important in like continuity.
Yeah, but like,
in a movie like this, who cares about continuity?
Yeah, but it's just like, again, it's fine to be lazy. Like at least they acknowledge it, but just think of something a little more clever than like, it's too expensive and it took 5 years to make. Like,
yeah,
that just seems so half-assed. It seems so half-assed in my opinion.
Yeah.
And same thing with her like jumping into the river and throwing it in there. It's like, I think they could have thought of something a little better.
At least that one they did have a throwaway line because the daughter gets super speed and they're like, oh no, if you run the bomb, it's going to be too unstable. And I was like, at least they said something, you know?
Yeah.
They knew that people were going to be like, oh, why doesn't the fast roll just run away real fast?
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, these things like did bother me when I watched it, but compared to like your average superhero movie, it had way less problems like this than most do. So
True.
So I mean, there's maybe like 4 that were pretty annoying, so it's kind of bad. But since the movie is like a comedy and kind of silly, and they do a lot of dumb stuff, it can get away with it in this case.
Yeah, it's just like one of my like pet peeves. It's just that I feel like screenwriting in that aspect is like so easy to fix. Like just change one line, and it just makes so much more sense. Like I'm sure they don't expect people to be like going and like analyzing this movie that deep, but it's just like may as well make some effort to make it have continuity.
Yeah, well, it just goes back to like it feels like it's just made lazily, and it's like even though they know this isn't the target audience, it's like it's not going to be reviewed critically. It will be. Like people will look at it, and people who like movies or maybe they don't choose to watch it, but they're watching it for like I don't know with their friends for whatever reason. It's like there's still going to be people who take it seriously and look at this stuff. So it's like when you make a movie, movies are forever. So it's not like a fucking like video game or like a Cyberpunk when it comes out and they have like 5 releases every week for the next month to make it better.
Well, hold on though. You say movies are forever, but I hear that there's going to be a Thunder Force Snyder cut coming out. That's all the cut footage I was mentioning earlier. I just saw it now on IMDb. The Snyder cut of Thunder Force.
Thunder Force. All right, you're fair point. Fair point. Oh god, that's like a nightmare though to me. It's like I get you want to like adjust to make things better when you can, but them just making movies and then going back, editing them, re-releasing them, and changing it. If that becomes the new norm for movies, the audience didn't like this movie, so we're gonna go back and just keep changing it.
I mean, that's basically the Disney like live action movies where they're like the same as the old ones, but then they just try to change little things to make it more modernized, but it's always worse in my opinion.
Yeah, just come up with a new movie at that point. But even like this, like with Snyder cut, like I mean, I get it because he got kind of like with the short end of the stick and got kicked out of the movie he wanted to make. That's a little different, but like if they just keep doing this, like Thunder Force only has a 30% of Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, well let's go back and reshoot some scenes and then just re-release it on Netflix a year from now and see how that does. And if that becomes the new norm, oh my god.
I feel like we're only a few steps away with that, with like everything being rebooted now. So I mean, it's only a little bit longer before they just make the same movie.
Oh god, yeah. Well, even like this remakes so much stuff. Like I'm fine with it if we're gonna add a new spin, but like I feel like just make a new movie at that point. Like,
I just feel like it's lazy. Like how that Wrong Turn movie, like no one would watch that if it wasn't called Wrong Turn. That was just a garbage horror movie, and I'm sure it would get a few fans, but how much of a bigger audience do you think they reached just because they called it Wrong Turn?
Probably like instead of like 20 people watching it, like 100 people watching it.
Well, that's the thing too. Going back to like the lazy screenwriting. So it's like one of those things. If the movie reaches a broad audience, like say like 1% of people notice like a continuity error. Well, if 1 million people watch the movie, that's still like, is that 10,000?
Something like that, sure.
10,000?
I'm not a math guy.
I think it's 10,000.
I'm a movie guy, not a math guy.
That means 10,000 people noticed your continuity error. And it's
yeah, and it's like, I don't know, I just think of, not necessarily screenwriting related, but like Jackie Chan, when he made his movies in China versus Hollywood movies, when he made his, like all the scenes, it was like one of him sitting at a desk and he like drops a pencil or something, like kicks it and does a cool trick. He said, I did like 140 takes. To get that. He's like, in Hollywood, you can't do that because it costs too much money. But he's like, cinema, when you make this movie, it's forever. And I want it to be good. I want people to remember this and hold up, because if you make a mistake or cut a corner, people will notice, or you will notice. And that just degrades the quality, at least in my mind, of watching my own work. It's like you want it to be good. It's like, given on these bigger budget ones, maybe it's different. But still, it's like, if you're cutting corners like that, people will notice, you will notice. You don't want that. You don't want that in your film.
You can't have your Starbucks coffee on the table when you're in Game of Thrones. They didn't have Starbucks yet. It's at least 100 more years until Starbucks was invented.
I think so. What, Game of Thrones was like 100 BC? 100 BC?
Everyone knows that zero is when Starbucks was invented.
Well, when did dragons become extinct? Because I think
were dragons before or after the dinosaurs?
I think it was after, because like there was more hobbits and stuff. So there's like the hobbits were after the cavemen. So there's caveman and dinosaurs. The dinosaurs evolved to dragons after the meteor killed them, because that kind of gave them radioactive wings. So that's like Land Before Time type stuff. And then when all the hobbits and stuff and the wizards came,
and then all the dinosaurs died, so all the hobbits and dwarves came out from their underground tunnels.
Yeah, but then all of them died off, and so then that's when the Game of Thrones era comes, and it's starting to get more of just only humans because the other races are dying. All the elves are are there elves in the Game of Thrones?
I'm sure there's at least one.
It seems like there's less fantasy characters and creatures in Game of Thrones than Lord of the Rings, so that's why I think it takes place closer to the future. So
that does make sense. That's good logic. Yeah,
I'm just not sure where Starbucks falls in there. Hobbits don't have Starbucks, but they have pipes. And they drink their ales. So I don't know.
So I think
at least 100 years.
Yeah, in conclusion, Game of Thrones had at least 100 years before Starbucks was invented.
At least I think so.
So you gotta get your script straight with that one.
So like early 1900s, I think, is when Game of Thrones takes place.
It was like right before TV was invented.
Yeah, I never left my state, so I have no idea what Europe's
I
like
think
now.
after the big war at the end of Game of Thrones, it's like 20 years before World War II.
That sounds right. That sounds right. I think so. So where does Captain America come in? Isn't he in World War II? Didn't he defeat Hitler or something like that? Oh, ay, ay, ay. But yeah. Anyway, back to Thunder Force. I think we're getting. I don't have much left to say. I think we should wrap it up. Do you have any other ideas you want to say before?
No,
we do?
I think we covered all of our bases for Thunder Force. But would you recommend it?
That's a tough one.
I know. I'm really on the fence for this one too.
I mean, it's not a great movie. I think you could find better movies to watch, but I could see people who kind of don't want too much like gross out vulgar humor. It's kind of a lighthearted like family comedy, I think. If you're like a little bit older, more appealing to female audiences, I think.
I feel like this is watch while you're playing on your phone type movie.
Yeah, this would be a good movie to just not pay attention to in the background.
Yeah, you just like have it in the background. You hear a couple jokes, chuckle, go back to your Instagram and your TikTokies.
Yeah, it's exactly. You can half watch it. That goes back to your category that you're gonna pitch to Netflix when you get an offer from them. You need to create a category that's movies to watch while doing other stuff.
Do you want to hear my new pitch for Netflix? Let's do it. So it's popular on Xbox. Like you play your game and you unlock all the achievements. I think Netflix needs to introduce achievements, and it's like watch all Adam Sandler movies.
Oh, that'd be
so
good.
Watch like 100 hours of Adam Sandler movies, or like watch all Adam Sandler movies with director commentary.
That would be really
and I
good.
feel like you get all these achievements and you can like see your friend's score and like who has a higher Netflix score.
That would be super popular. It's only a matter of time till that type of stuff happens.
Like, I honestly feel like that is going to be a thing. They need to have like a friend system on Netflix and you can like add your friends and see how many achievements.
Oh, it makes sense. Uh-oh, my phone died.
Oh, I guess.
But I guess that means we gotta wrap up this episode. So, any final thoughts? Would you recommend this movie?
I think if it's just like a turn off your brain, play on your phone type movie, watch in the background, I would say watch it. But if you want a good comedy, just go watch Bad Trip or Sasquatch Gang.
Yep, I agree. It's a turn off your brain movie. You want a better comedy, Bad Trip's funnier, Sasquatch Gang's funnier. Watch those instead. But check out Thunder Force, I guess. It's a solid like 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I was thinking it's a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10, which is about I think what the audience score was on something Metacritic. Nope, never mind. They're all below 50%. Oh yeah, 51% of Google users liked Thunder Force.
Those are always inflated. Yeah,
probably.
Well, I think that wraps up this week's episode. Since your battery died, I want to thank everyone for tuning in this week. Be sure to like and subscribe, and if you want, just leave some comments and leave some comments. Let us know what you thought, and don't leave a comment if you're a bot. Thank you.